with linked to Paul Boots. Paul, it's great to see you here. Highbury means what to you?
A lot. You know, I started my career, I have major memories. Very lucky to play for Arsenal and honoured, you know, top club. And a lot of memories, been in here enough times, you know, get my boots and with all the nerves. So it's a special place, and it is a shame that it's going to go.
Would you come and hide in here on match days and sort of find your boots amongst these, or they brought to you? No,
I used to get my own boots. Well, the boots would all be out, but if you had a few pairs, you might change your pairs. If you hadn't scored for about 12 games, and then you change your boots. You know, I was very superstitious.
At a club like this, with the marble halls, with all the history around it, did you feel a sense of occasion and feel a sense of aura around the place?
Yeah, you could see. You'd play teams, especially in the FA Cup, you get little teams, smaller teams, to come here, and before kick-off, you know, they get out on the pitch, they'd all be taking pictures of the stadium and having pictures done in the goalmouth, and that's when you sort of realise, you thought, my God, this is a big club, you know. Sometimes you do take it for granted when you come up through the ranks and you've been here a long time, you do. It's when you leave you realise how big a club this is.
Well, it's going to be a very sad day for a lot of people on Sunday. Do you think it's right? Do you think it's necessary for Arsenal to be moving on now? Yeah,
I think so. If you want to live with the likes of Man United and Chelsea, where, especially Man United, who are getting 70,000 people at their games, they need to start getting 50, 60,000 to get the revenue in to bring in top draw players like they have already. And it will be a shame, but, you know, it will soon be forgotten. And, you know, if they start well in their new stadium, everything will be great.
I guess a lot depends, Paul, on what's going to happen this season with the Champions League. If Arsenal clinch it on Sunday, if they don't, they can have another go against Barcelona in the Champions League final. How important do you think it is they're kicking off in the Emirates in a new stadium?
I think the first year will be okay. I think people would have bought their tickets on the strength of it's the new stadium and everything's okay. I think after this year, if they don't get in the Champions League, I think they would have budgeted for the Champions League for God knows the next 10 years or so. So this year, not so bad, but after that, I think they'll struggle if they don't get into it. What's
your hunch about what's going to happen on Sunday? Because Spurs have to go to West Ham and get something.
I just can't see them not getting something. You know, West Ham have got a few injuries. The FA Cup, where, no disrespect to the West Ham players who have done unbelievably well, they might never ever play in another cup finals. You know, you don't come around that too often, and I just think a lot of them will be rested. And when West Ham have rested players like Portsmouth at home got smashed 4-1. Rested players at Bolton got smashed, I think it was 4-1 again. So I expect Tottenham to win on Sunday, I'm afraid.
So then it goes down to Paris. Can Arsenal beat Barcelona?
Yeah, they can do. A one-off game, yeah, I think so. I think one-off. If Henry plays to his tops and Ronaldinho plays to his tops, Arsenal will win.
Paul, thanks very much. We're just going to leave Paul at this end of the boot room and go 2 steps to the other end of the boot room. It's that small and cramped. As you can see, not much going on here, apart from all the training tops, not much need. On a day like today, it's been gloriously sunny, all the balls there that are going to have a kick around before the game. It's going to be such a special occasion on Sunday. It might get to the players. The hope is for Arsenal that it doesn't, that they actually manage to get a positive result, a win against Wigan, and that Tottenham don't manage to do quite so well against West Ham. With that, it's back to you.
Thanks very much indeed, Dave. He's enjoyed himself in the sunshine at Highbury today. Last match for Arsenal then on Sunday at Highbury. The clock is ticking. Someone else who knows all about life at Highbury is Charlie Nicholas. Delighted to say that the former Arsenal striker and, of course, a man well known in Scotland joins us from our Glasgow studio now. What are your memories of Highbury then?
Ian, my memory of Highbury, I've got lots of them, I said, but probably like halfway down the tunnel we used to have the players' lounge in there, so it was always convenient after 90 minutes just to pop in there. It's now, I think it's now a media room, but we used to socialise in there after the match, and just about every team used to come in because it was that old-fashioned ground. They didn't quite know where else to go, so everybody used to come into what we called the social club there. But many great memories of it. It's such a fascinating building when you walk in, and you've got the heated floors and all the marble. It wasn't just a place of a lot of style. It just had a real impression on people as soon as you walked in, and fantastic old stadium, it really was.
Did you ever go in the social room at half-time?
Yeah, when it was dropped, which was on a few occasions. We used to have a couple of good arguments in there, actually, you know, after match, and a couple of I remember Graham Robertson Graham Roberts put me into, it used to be the old glass dugout, it's still the dugout area now, but I nearly got a piling in the head with a London derby, and the Spurs players came in after the match and they'd won the match, and we weren't too best pleased with Graham Robertson. I mean, it's died down since, but there's a lot of great characters in that social club that we had then. It was quite quickly stopped after a few years, as you can imagine. But it was, you know, even the fascination. When I came from Celtic, which was an enormous football club, and going to Highbury, and you had 38,000. At Celtic, we had 70, sometimes 80,000 in the old ground. And when you went there, it was small in terms of size for me. But you know, having the training complex there on a Friday, I think was always a stimulant, if you like, to say on a Friday you got to Highbury, you started to prepare for the Saturday match. I mean, we weren't the most classiest Arsenal team of all time, not compared to this current batch, but you know, it was a very, very special arena.
I must ask you, Charlie, do you think there's any danger that they will lose some of the intensity of Highbury and therefore affecting the performances? I remember when they used to play at Wembley in the Champions League, and it just didn't feel right. Is there any danger of that happening at the Emirates?
No, I don't think there is, Ian. I went to Wembley, and funny enough, I went when they lost I think it was 4-2 to Barcelona, and it was a wonderful game of football. But Arsenal never adapted. The fans never adapted to Wembley. It didn't feel the same. That enclosed, tight ground, because Highbury, the pitch, although it's always been, or probably one of the best pitches in the last 10 years, you know, it's so tight and so enclosed that quick passing is a thing that transformed, that Wenger in particular changed, because Arsenal's history you know, Highbury in particular, was a tight, well-organised, defensive type team. And then he's changed the philosophy for this wonderful flair and open, expressive football. And when you watch it at Highbury, it looks even quicker than it does in a lot of the bigger stadiums. So I think going to a bigger stadium, they need to do it financially, and because of the growth that Wenger's created there also, then they had to move. For instance, at Celtic, when I was a lad playing, we had 70, 80,000 people there. But then suddenly there was a limit, and it went to something like 57, 58,000. And then the new stadium came, and they were threatening to go somewhere else. And I say, there will always be the history of the football club. It just simply moves on, and that will happen at Arsenal.
If Arsene Wenger was courted by the FA for the England job, he's not saying. But he's adamant that David Dein did nothing to influence his decision. He didn't want the job anyway, he says. The club vice president didn't need to persuade him to stay.
It was not David Dein who was in charge of that at all. He's just a consultant in a committee, so he doesn't make the decisions. And I feel in this story, the media give him too big a role because they want to blame somebody. And I think you should concentrate on supporting your next manager and give him all the ingredients to be successful, rather than before he starts, there's already a campaign of controversy surrounding that.
Wenger is convinced the FA should never have looked beyond the English-born candidates anyway.
I always was consistent with my opinion about that it should be an Englishman, and they had good candidates, very good candidates. In the end, why did they choose McLaren or not, I don't know, only they can explain that.
For the climax to the domestic season, Wenger is expecting Alan Pardew's West Ham to make every effort to beat Tottenham on Sunday, which could give Arsenal one route back to the Champions League.
Players can never have the feeling that you treat a game lightly, and I think Pardew is a good manager, so I never can imagine that at some stage you don't treat the game seriously when you're responsible for a club.
An emotional afternoon is in store. Arsenal fans will enjoy their last game at the old stadium a lot more if West Ham do them an invaluable favour. Peter Staunton, Sky Sports.
Personally, it's 10 years of maybe of my best years in my career in this stadium, so it will always mean something special to me. And for everybody it's the same. When you had great experience somewhere, there's always a good emotion, and I will never forget that.
Obviously West Ham are playing Tottenham, and they've got the FA Cup final to think about. Are you confident that West Ham won't take their foot off the pedal?
I don't see why they should. I feel when when you're a good manager, you never let any game go, because if you let a game go, that gives a signal to your players that they can do it as well. And players can never have the feeling that you treat the game lightly. And I think Pardew is a good manager, so I never can imagine that at some stage you don't treat the game seriously when you're responsible for a club. And on the other hand, West Ham's best interest is to win this game before the cup final.
Can I just quickly ask you about some comments by Steve Gibson, the Middlesbrough chairman in the press? He said he was surprised that you weren't pursued more vigorously, I suppose, by the FA. How vigorously did the FA pursue you?
Well, I said many times, first of all, that I thought there was an English manager should be chosen by the England Football Federation, so I was never in the frame. And we had good candidates. In the end, they opted for continuity. The only thing I could say, I can understand that Steve Gibson is a bit frustrated, because it looked for a while that the process lasted a bit long, but I don't know why, personally. But I always was consistent with my opinion about that it should be an Englishman, and they had good candidates, very good candidates. In the end, why did they choose McLaren or not, I don't know, only they can explain that.
Were you actually interviewed by the FA at all?
I would like to keep that confidential.
But the serious doubts are really coming in about David Dean's role in this, that he was unlikely to pursue you very, very strongly, because he obviously wants you to stay here.
Well, I don't know exactly what's the process of deciding who will be the next England manager. The only thing I can say, it was not David Dean who was in charge of that at all. He's just a consultant in a committee, so he doesn't make the decisions. And I feel in this story, the media's give him too big a role, because they want to blame somebody. And I think you should concentrate on supporting your next manager and give him all the ingredients to be successful, rather than before he starts, there's already a campaign of controversy surrounding that. I believe let's support now. You have a new manager after the World Cup. Focus now on the World Cup and try to help your team to be successful.
Tomorrow, after 93 years, it'll stage its last competitive game before the Gunners move to the new Emirates Stadium in the summer. And who better to speak to about his memories of the famous old ground than Arsenal's all-time record goal scorer, Thierry Henry.
My very first time when I arrived at Highbury to come and do the press conference and sign my contract, you know, when I arrived in, I was just like, you know, first of all, I was surprised about, you know, just you see some flat and some, you know, you arrive somewhere and then suddenly, bang, the stadium. It's going to be difficult to picture it after, you know, because it won't be the same. It's not the stands. I know they're going to keep them and build flats into them, but it won't be the same. Well, it's strange, the whole thing, you know, when we arrive on the coach and we go down Avenel Road and you see all the fans walking down Avenel Road and just in front of the main entrance of the stadium, you know. All of that, you know, it's going to be, you know, pretty sad.
Henry's coming in! Goal! Isn't that just Henry? Isn't that just Arsenal? Isn't that just typical?
I have so many memories, and I think people will always remember the goal against Man United.
Henry, distant shot! What a goal! What a fantastic goal by Thierry Henry!
The goal against Tottenham. The back heel against Charlton.
Henry in the near post position here. How did he get that in?
Some great memories on a personal point of view, but on a team point of view also. I have so many great memories here, because to stay unbeaten in England is something really difficult to do. And we have done it in our years here at Highbury.
Arsenal, the champions, unbeaten from start to finish. Played 38, lost 0. Will it ever, ever happen again?
That was pretty special today. You know, we finally won against Leicester in the last game of the season. The atmosphere was just amazing here.
Oh, look at that for a pass. Henry! Oh, what a goal! Thierry Henry he scores his 100th Highbury goal.
It's going to take a while for people to say where you're going at the weekend and say we're going to the Emirates Stadium. You know, it's gonna take, you know, a while. I'm sure, you know, even you guys sometime, you know, on TV you're gonna say Arsenal at Highbury, and you're gonna go, oh no, it's not at Highbury anymore. So, you know, for everyone it's gonna be a bit strange. But as you said, you know, it was a normal move and a sad one.
It's certainly going to be an emotional day for Gunners fans. Lee, your happiest memories of Highbury?
Well, there's so many. Manish played there for 14 years or so, to try and pin down one. But I think 98, the double in 98, when we were chasing Man United, we actually won 13 games on the spin, and we played Everton at home. And I think this moment, because after we got the trophies, we were walking around the pitch with Tony Adams and standing in front of the North Bank, and you could actually see the top tier of the stadium bouncing up and down, and it was a little bit scary at the time because I had family in there, but it was just such a memory. I said to Tony, it doesn't get any better than this, and we were standing on the centre spot looking at the North Bank, and it was just a brilliant moment.
Well, Laurie, as an opposing player, you've had your moments at Highbury. In fact, we've unearthed this gem from the archives.
Dear, can't wait.
Why does this worry me?
Coming up now, and first we look at the defensive skill, and this is one of Mark Lawrenson. He wins his way to the ball and could be excused there perhaps for playing it safe, because if he lost it would be dangerous. But good players like to find space. The way to find it is to beat one man, then another as he comes flying in, and he's in space all right there. And it was that move, without another Arsenal player touching the ball, that actually led to Liverpool's first goal.
There you go.
Awesome.
Didn't Jimmy look well?
Yeah. In fact, you'll be able to see how whether Arsenal can provide a fitting finale at Highbury. Highlights of their game with Wigan, along with tomorrow's 9 other Premiership games, can be seen on Match of the Day. That starts at 10:45, BBC One. Well, it's a big month for the Gunners. In 11 days' time, they face Barcelona in the final of the Champions League. And this was Henry's assessment of his side's chances in Paris.
We have absolutely nothing to lose. I think you know, Liverpool shown last year that everything is possible, even being 3-0 down at half-time against a great team. So, you know, as I said, as you know, and as everyone knows, you know, all the time people talk about Ronaldinho, but you know, they have Deco, they have Xavi, who is back now. They have Iniesta, which I thought was brilliant against Milan on the 2 legs. They have Milson, who did a great job on Kaká. They have Marquez at the back. They have Puyol. They have people on the bench. They have, you know, we can talk about it for a very long time now. And but you know, I think not saying that the pressure is going to be on them, because the pressure also is on us. But people expect them to win, and you know, they are the favourites. But, you know, if once again we can climb a mountain, we're going to try to do it.
It's going to be a tough mountain as well. Barcelona this week were crowned champions, the Spanish champions for the 2nd successive season. That's their 18th title in all. Question now is, can they do it?
I think they can, of course. It's a one-off game. I think it probably suit them playing Barcelona as opposed to AC Milan. I think it'll be an open game. And with the talent that both sides have got, there's got to be goals in it, surely.
Yes, I think the name's on it.
You think so?
Yeah, I feel a little bit like I felt about Liverpool towards the latter stages last year. I think
That's
we can win it.
That means trouble.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
If he's called it.
club's favourite sons to help him look back at Highbury's glorious past.
Well, first of all, welcome to Arsenal, everybody.
As a kid, he was a fan. As a teenager, he signed for the club. And these days, he's quite simply a legend.
Coming and playing for the club, being a supporter and a local lad, which was fantastic for me.
Here's the earliest picture of Highbury in the making. That was back in August 1913. And within 3 months, the Arsenal were playing their first game at their new home.
Here's Mr. Herbert Chapman, the famous manager, with his lads at Highbury.
I must apologise this morning. I'm so husky, I can scarcely speak. But my deputy, old Tom Whittaker, will perform. Now, Tom, do your stuff. All right. On my right, this is Boy Baston.
This is Boy Baston speaking. This will be my second final, and I don't think I shall suffer with nerves this time.
Yes, the legendary Cliff Bastin, whose goal-scoring records have only been eclipsed in recent years.
Bastin puts them ahead.
In the 1930s, the club enjoyed success after success. 3 back-to-back league titles, and as Bastin mentioned, the FA Cup.
Captain Alex James with goal scorer Drake. The old stands at Highbury are not good enough for the cup winners. So
In the same decade, there was major demolition work as Highbury had its name officially changed to the Arsenal Stadium. Brand new stands were built, and the club made sure the late Herbert Chapman would never be forgotten. In fact, his bust in the Marble Hall is one of Highbury's most recognisable features. George Allison took over, and here he is being made up for the little-known film The Arsenal Stadium Mystery, which was shot at Highbury.
Led again by Joe Mercer and the Magic Cup.
The North Bank survived being hit by a bomb during the Second World War before club captain Joe Mercer brought back 2 league titles and the FA Cup.
No wonder the Arsenal has the reputation for being just one happy family. Sitting under the ultraviolet ray lamp is a thrice-weekly schedule.
The ground even hosted a cricket match once, the Dennis Compton's benefit game, and England, greeted by the King, played their internationals there as well. In the 60s, Charlie George signed for the club.
When I actually joined in '66, Billy Wright was our manager. I was actually Billy's last signing, and I was here 2 weeks and he got the sack. I thought, well, it can't be my fault. They ain't seen me play yet.
In the same year, our Henry fought Muhammad Ali for the World Heavyweight title at Highbury, but he was stopped on cuts once again.
The best evening I had as a player here, I think a lot of people in our area will tell you, was when we won the Old Fairs Cup in '69-70. It was just absolutely amazing on a pitch that we never had grass on our pitches then. It was rolled mud and dust.
That thrilling 4-2 win over Anderlecht at Highbury brought the club's first ever European success.
At Highbury, a tumultuous welcome home for the Arsenal team.
And the following year, they won the double.
In the FA Cup. McDonald getting up!
And in the modern era, some famous faces and memorable moments.
Would you believe it? That sums it all up.
In the final game under the floodlights at Highbury, Arsenal scored the goal which took them to the Champions League final. A night to remember in the stadium they'll never forget.
Many of Arsenal's finest will be at Highbury today. 2 of the most famous, most revered names from Arsenal's past can join us live right now. Frank McClintock and George Graham. Afternoon, fellas.
Afternoon, Jeff.
George, what is it that makes Highbury so special? What sets it aside from other grounds?
Well, I think really when it was first built, you know, it was a state-of-the-art stadium. I think it was 1913, and that was the forerunner for all the stadiums since, obviously, until the last probably decade, Jeff.
I mean, the word that's often used, Frank, in association with Highbury is class, isn't it? It just seems to ooze class, if you like.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's how we all felt. I mean, we'd been with other clubs before we came to Arsenal. When you arrive at Arsenal, Jeff, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the marble halls and the dressing rooms and everything that goes with it. They do everything as well as they possibly can. And you look around this stadium at the moment, and it's still a fantastic stadium, and it's a tragedy in a way that it's got to be brought down. But they have to do that for the future. I think it'll probably make them about £30 million a year extra at the Emirates.
Yeah, not like you to think of money, Frank.
It's because of me, George, actually.
George, I'm sure you've been asked 100 times already this week. You must have so many memories, but what are the standout memories for you at Arsenal?
I think really that what set it off, Jeff, was the game against Anderlecht. I think Bertie and Don Howe were just sort of building a side, but we needed to win that first trophy. And fortunately for us, although we lost 3-1 in Belgium against Anderlecht, we actually then won 3-0 at home, and that set us off in the success route for the next 5 years.
And what about you, Frank? What's the thing that stands out in your memory?
Exactly the same, Jeff. People ask me that as well, and I remember coming out at half-time. I think we were leading 2-0, and we had to get that extra goal, and I went up to the North Bank, which is just opposite me here, and I went like that to the crowd, get behind us more, and the crowd were about 62,000, and they really were fantastic that night. And they made such a massive difference, because what people don't remember, Jeff, is it was 17 years. See, I'm getting an applause here, Jeff, already. I haven't even finished yet. And it was 17 years before the club had ever won anything, and we were getting hammered every week about the great players of the past, and we needed to win something badly, and we actually did it that night in great style. And then we went on from there to win the double, and almost won the double the year after that as well.
Frank, George, it's Matt Letizia. I know you guys played in the stadium before All-Seater Stadium came in. Did the atmosphere change much, do you think, once the All-Seater came in?
I think, Matt, really it has changed a bit in all the stadiums. I think there's no question about that. I think it was much more louder. The fans seem to be a lot more in tune, you know, with on the field of play. But I think when they brought the seats into all the stadiums, and Highbury included, I thought it sort of took some of the noise, some of the atmosphere away from the game.
Yeah, we used to drive down here from, we used to have our pre-match lunch at South Arts Golf Course, and then we all drove down in our cars. And when we arrived here about an hour and a half before the game, all the streets were packed with fans, because they had to get in and get their positions, and the North Bank end especially was like a spying cop at Liverpool. It was all heaving, and there was a marvellous atmosphere well before the game was even about to take off. It was heaving, and the goose pimples were there, and the noise was unbelievable. And I feel a little bit sorry for the young Arsenal supporters. They've never experienced that kind of atmosphere, and everybody... We've been asked before to walk around the pitch before a game and things like that, and you do it 15 minutes before kick-off, and the place is half empty because they're in the bars. We should be there, Josh, shouldn't we? That's what we would have been, in the pubs as well, yeah. We will be in the next minute. Finish as soon as we get a drink.
Well, I'd like to find out who's going to buy that round, because none of you two will. I know it's going to be quite emotional and a happy day today for both of these, but Frank, how's the booth looking for lunch?
I'm not answering that.
George, in your opinion, who's the finest gunner to have played at Highbury over all the years that you've seen?
Oh, that's a difficult one, but I don't think there's any question, Jeff. I think the quality in the last decade, you know, I mean, I think we were good players, not myself included that, excluded that. I think we were good players, but I think over the last decade, since Arsene Wenger's come, I think he's brought world-class players. I mean, my favourite is Dennis Bergkamp. I think he's an absolute genius. You know, he's very intelligent, great brain. And then you've got Henry, another one. But I think the great names, McClintock's one of them. Tony Adams, again, he's right up there with the best. So I think it all depends on what your taste is. But as I say, I think Bergkamp has been my favourite.
Yeah, prior to the last 10 years, I would have said Liam Brady was one of my big favourites, and Charlie George. I liked their style of play and everything else, and there were some great players in the past, but the people that George just mentioned, Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry, absolutely fantastic players and world-class players as well.
Frank, you, over the years in your playing days, you know, you've had a reputation as a hard man, but will there be possibility of a tear or two today?
Oh, I'm quite an emotional man as well, and I think it will be a terrific day, and but it will be very emotional as well when you think it's the very last game. We'll never see this stadium, this pitch again, not unless you buy an apartment here and you get you spend about £300,000. You might get a little bit of the garden as a pitch, but yeah, definitely. And people were here, Jeff, about 12 o'clock we arrived, and there was quite a number of thousands of people at 12 o'clock and 11 o'clock down this way, so it shows you that for them as well it is a massive game and the last game and a very nostalgic game.
Okay, fellas, look, just before we let you go, we just heard a fantastic rendition of, you know, All Good Pals and Jolly Good Company. I'm sure you've sung that before,
yeah.
Haven't you?
That was
Come on, give us a chorus, lads.
That's a old way.
Hey, listen, we do Sinatra only, we don't do all that stuff.
Yeah, only sing when they're paid as well, those two.
Yeah, and when we're drunk.
Yeah. George and Frank, look, thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic afternoon
thank you, guys.
At Highbury.
Smashing.
Take care, boys.
Thanks very much, lads. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you.
Charlie Nicholas, of course, you graced there as well. What's your outstanding memory of Highbury?
I think I remember my first game there against Luton, and the lads said we're in the dressing room, and it's a classy place. But you open the window and you just see all the crowds standing outside with their beer and whatever else they were having, and you just got the atmosphere from the street because it was right in the middle of the housing. And you know, I'd come from Glasgow, Celtic, and it was a big stadium, but you were always away from that side of things. Once you were in the ground, you were away from it all. But you used to open the window, and the whole atmosphere was coming out of the dressing room, and that always amazed me. But just suddenly you leave the house and you get into the stadium, and then before you know it, you're virtually on the pitch, and it's a special place, Jeff. But when you're in there, even I went with Celtic on a couple of occasions and testimonial and benefit games, and the way that they greet you at the door is just sensational. They always had style and class, Arsenal.
It's got class.
It's just all over the place. As soon as you walk in that door, they don't do enough to look after you. And it's a wonderful, wonderful place. It really is. With wonderful people, I have to say.
And of course, dare I say it, Matt Le Tissier, but you scored at Highbury in front of the mural, didn't you?
I did,
bet
yeah.
their faces were a picture.
Silence the crowd. Very good, Jeff. That must have been thought up right this minute. I only told you a couple of minutes ago.
That must have been a very surreal atmosphere.
It was a very surreal atmosphere, actually. Yeah, it was very strange. Yeah, we all started clapping. Yeah. I don't think so, but we lost 4-2 anyway. But it was rubbish. But my greatest memory of Highbury would always be the first time I went into the away changing room, and the marble floor and everything. And I remember taking my shoes and socks off, and thinking, once the socks have come off, this is going to be freezing on these marble floors. And it was the heating was under the floor. And it was just the loveliest feeling to have your lovely warm floor under your feet in the change room. I never used to put my boots on until 5 to 3. It was great.
Alan said it was later than that.
Thanks, Thomas.
Alan Smith also told a story this week of his playing days there. He said, you know, often the crowds were a lot smaller than they are now, and he said they could be playing in front of 16,000 and 17,000. He would hear the same guy every week who, from the same seat, who religiously shout throughout the game, "Rubbish Arsenal, rubbish Arsenal," regardless of whether they were winning or losing. Great memories of Highbury. Last game, the 2010th competitive match to be played there this afternoon. Well, no question about who the biggest name at the club is right now. It's Thierry Henry. The Arsenal captain met Dickie Davis at Highbury to look back at some of his favourite moments there. Of course, and the big question is Henry saying goodbye to
I think it's a little bit special here.
Well, to be honest, something about, it's difficult to describe. Something about Arsenal, there's something about Arsenal that I loved. When I first joined the club, everyone said to me, it's pretty special to play at Highbury, this kind of thing. And I remember when I made my debut, when I came on against Leicester at half-time, as long as you're not in the stadium, you don't know what it is. And when I stepped onto the pitch, everyone gave me a standing ovation. And I always remember that day. All the time when I arrive here, it's just to do the warm-up. When I step out of the tunnel, I just look at the grass and I just want to play. Scoring here always has been something special for me.
Wonderful, wonderful goal! He's a goal-scoring genius. Henry. What a goal! Electrifying. Electrifying. An astounding goal from Thierry Henry. Sheer class.
Does he ever score a bad goal, Thierry Henry? They all seem to be things of beauty.
What's it like for you to think that your records will never be broken here at Highbury?
I can always claim that no one will break my record here at Highbury because he won't be able to play here. Or maybe a kid when he's going to step out and play in the garden. It's a pretty special place, and everyone's going to miss it at the end of the day. And I know we have to move and everything, but Highbury is going to be a special. Shame that obviously we can't just keep it like that. Just to come back and have a look at it sometime.
Do you think you can still finish fourth?
Oh, there is still a possibility, to be honest. On the other side, also, you have to be honest, I'm kind of still amazed that, with 11 defeats, we're still in the race for fourth spot, Normally, you can already be out of it for a very long time now. We're still in the race for it. Last time Tottenham came here and had an amazing game. But I think we just couldn't let that happen, them winning the last derby here. That's not possible for me, for everyone here who loves the club. That wouldn't have been, bearable. So
It's the most passionate I've seen you, I think, when you've celebrated a goal.
In the ideal world, I'm not having anything against Spurs, but I know how much it means to the fans and how much it means, to everyone who loves Arsenal. And when I wear the Arsenal shirt, so I represent those people. So I need to do what I have to do to make them happy.
Can you put it into words what it means to reach the Champions League final?
Well, obviously the destiny of the club is kind of also my destiny. I never won the Champions League. The club also never did it. So it will be nice. It's going to be something pretty special. And I know everyone obviously is talking about the final is in Paris and everything, but I said so many times, even if the final was in my back garden, for me it's a final, and you want to be in it and you want to win it, obviously. The final is always something special. The day is special. Final of the Champions League is even more special.
I know you've mentioned before about Liverpool's comeback and Steven Gerrard's, role in that. Does that inspire you?
Well, he did yesterday. Yesterday I was talking to a friend about it, and I said, when I saw Steven Gerrard lifting the cup, I said to myself, it is doable. So at the end of the day, you can only, admire that and get inspired by it, because they didn't have a good run in the league, but they did it in Champions League. So it was kind of a similar situation with us. At the end of the day, they won it. We didn't so far, but I know since the beginning of the season, everyone has been comparing us to Liverpool in terms of the way it's been going. But one thing that they did is they won it. We haven't so far. So let's maybe see what's going to happen in Paris, and then maybe we can talk about plenty of comparison after.
I guess every Arsenal fan you bump into must keep asking you, are you staying or going, Thierry? Is it?
Even my mom asked me the question, so so I can't avoid it. It's just the way it is, So
What do you tell her?
Well, I tell her, same thing. I take my decision before the World Cup. Even my mom doesn't know, so same here. You know, I just, as I said at the time, you know, when people ask me the question, I always say, you know, and you see it. You see how hard it is to get into the 4th spot, and you see how hard it was to get into the final of the Champions League. That's why I wanted to put all my efforts into it.
I mean, would the Champions League final have a bearing on your thought? I mean, it's Barcelona or Arsenal. People are saying he might go to Barcelona, but if he wins, a bit like Steven Gerrard, he can't go if Arsenal win the trophy, and he wants to lead them out of the new stadium. He loves England, but does any of that come into it at all? Have you any of those factors involved in your final decision?
The only thing that comes to me at the moment, to be honest, is to try to win the game against Wigan and obviously go in Paris and try to win the game. At the moment, that's the only thing I have in my mind. I've seen so many stuff since the beginning of the season. Wow, it's just amazing. Sometimes I wonder how people actually know something that I don't even know. I think, or you're psychic, or you I don't know, the name of that guy, David Blaine, I don't know, but I don't believe in all this kind of thing. So, as I said to you, I didn't take my decision, and I will take it before the World Cup.
So you've not made your mind up one way or the other yet?
No, I said so many times. I think I'm going to now carry on the tape. Like that, when they asked me the question, I put the tape on. I said, you know, I know everyone wants to know, but at the moment, you know, I have other things in my mind, you know, and that's where people should talk about the game, and when it's going to be about time to talk about other stuff, we'll talk about other stuff.
But phone your mum first.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Thierry Henry keeping mum about his future at Arsenal, but Charlie Nicholas, if he was intending to stay, why hasn't he said so?
People have got different ways of doing things. I mean, I think the majority of people think he's on the move, but
what do you think?
I don't think he's made that decision yet. Honestly, he's handled it the way he has, and I don't know why. But Thierry obviously feels comfortable. Now,
He has to have Champions League football, doesn't he? Isn't that the long and the short of it?
Yeah, well, his talent deserved to be at the finest level of football. There's no doubt about it. He's the finest player I've ever seen in terms of coming to the Premiership. I think he's now bigger than Cantona and Zola, even Bergkamp, who's my hero for long enough. He's a special, special talent, and of course Arsenal need him as much as they need anybody, probably more than anybody else, maybe other than Arsene Wenger. I'm close to Jerome Anderson, the agent, and Jerome's also quite close to Arsene Wenger. And I spoke to Jerome about it, and what is the situation? And he says he's very, very pleased with the Arsenal offer. There's no problem at all with the offer. He wants to sit down at the end of the season and speak to Arsene Wenger about Thierry's future, Arsene's future, Arsenal's future. And I said, that's quite awkward. It's just as if it's delaying what we all think. Is he going to leave? And he says that's the way he wants to handle it. So nothing's changed, and he hasn't really focused. He's not been in to see Arsene Wenger personally. He will do that at the end of the Champions League. I find it quite a strange way of doing things, but that's the way he's decided to do it. I personally think at the moment, Jeff, I still feel that he's going to stay at Arsenal.
I think you could be a minority of one of this
Yeah,
panel.
I would agree.
I totally agree. I would love him to stay. I think he's lit up the Premiership. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. And from the early days, I remember going down to Arsenal when he first arrived there, and I'm convinced Arsene Wenger brought him to be a wide man, as the left or the right. I didn't think he would. He thought for 1 minute that he was going to be his main striker and score as many goals as he was, and he's just been absolutely fantastic. I think he's just a sublime player. He does it, and you just see him there. Got great humility for such a big star. A fantastic guy. But I think he will leave. I think he will go to Barcelona or maybe even Real Madrid.
To be pragmatic about it all, Peter, isn't this a good time to sell in a way, because they're going to get an absolute ransom for him, aren't they?
Well, I just think I'm like you. I just don't understand why he hasn't signed, if he's going to sign. So I just get a feeling he's going, but he's out of contract, I think.
A year.
So you've got to make a decision, haven't you? If he doesn't sign on, you've got to sell him. Simple as that. And they will get the going price with a year to go.
Yeah. I just wonder if there are signs as well, Matt, that Arsenal might have the man to replace him, in the sense that when Jose Antonio Reyes arrived in this country, he came with a massive reputation, which he hasn't lived up to in any way, shape or form recently. But against Manchester City this week, just the signs were there that his confidence had grown and he was growing into the part.
Yeah, there were signs, Jeff, but we've seen flashes before. You know, he had a fantastic start to the season before last, where he was on fire for a short period of time, and then it went again. And everybody can have a good day like this, but he's got to produce it consistently.
This is a fantastic striker, isn't it? So.
I mean, he has got that ability, Jeff. His left foot is fantastic. It's a super finish. And I'm sure Arsene Wenger would love to see that week in, week out, but he just hasn't produced it on a regular basis as Thierry has done.
Yeah, but he's one of those players who, when you say about when it gets tough, he will hide, whereas Thierry Henry, yeah, now and again he's gone mid, but he will stand up and be counted, whereas Reyes, I don't think has ever enjoyed that side to the physical side to
he doesn't like that physical side, you're right, and because of that problem area of playing up there, sometimes in his own would be too difficult for him, Jeff. It doesn't stick enough. And of course, the other thing about Henry is he makes more goals than he scores. You know, Reyes has still got a problem with his final ball at times. He's got wonderful talent. Sometimes goes down too soft. I just think the other query in this with Thierry Henry, I think he'd be a great loss, not just obviously for Arsenal, but for the Premiership in general. But Arsene Wenger is the master at finding replacements. I don't know how. I don't know how you can replace Henry. I think he's so special, but he is the master of finding someone who can replace him.
One player who will not be playing for Arsenal under Arsene Wenger is Dan Smith of Sunderland. He's the fellow who's responsible for the tackle, Phil Thompson, on Abu Diaby, which Arsene Wenger calls stupidity, wicked stupidity. He said his only intention was to hurt the player.
Well, because it's so late, the tackle, it's so late, and the ball's actually maybe a couple of feet already away from the boy. I couldn't even say that it's mistimed. It is a dreadful tackle, absolute dreadful tackle. And the boy is a young player, the Arsenal, Diaby, and I just feel so sorry for him. You just see him go there, and it's a jump tackle.
Is it anything? Is it any worse? Is it any worse to what we see week in and week out?
I think it's as bad, if you want, as what the Essien tackle was that we seen on Dietmar Hamann. It was unwarranted, and I can see how Arsene Wenger, when you see a young boy of such talent, and it's a reckless tackle.
The lad's reaction. He just kicked Fabregas twice before that. He was only on the pitch 10 minutes or so, and it was reaction as if, you know, he was in a way a little bit pleased that he got the kick.
He's a young boy who's making his first appearance in the Premiership in front of his own fans.
I understand that passion,
you know.
And Arsenal are toying with the game. I understand that. What I would say is that, and I'm not being disrespectful to the Sunderland manager, but I think someone should have taken the lad and just maybe said, like, maybe an apology or a phone call or something to say, you know, I respect other people in the game. That little side of it goes missing. And he walked away as if, you know, I've got a challenge in there. But I don't know if anybody noticed, but getting up the tunnel at the final whistle, Jeff, Henry and everybody was waiting on the little lad. I think he should have said something about it personally, or someone should have maybe says to him, like, this is the best way
I'll tell you that Arsene Wenger approached him in the tunnel. I know this for a fact. He approached him in the tunnel, and the boy apologised, and Arsene Wenger said, I don't want your apologies. So, you know.
Well, at least if he's offered that, I would accept that.
And I think he should have accepted it, you know, for all whatever goes on in the game. If the boy is giving his sincere apologies, I think...
I mean, they're talking about potential legal action. Now, that's not the path to go down, is it?
No, I don't think so. I think these things happen in the game, and we've over the years, we've all witnessed it, we've all been there on the pitch, we've seen it, and I think if you start taking it down, I think that is in the heat of the moment. Arsene said that.
Well, apologies to Wigan today. But the day is very much about Arsenal, isn't it? In many respects. Let's get some predictions. Phil Thompson, Arsenal against Wigan.
Oh, sorry for Wigan, a resounding Arsenal victory.
Okay, Charlie?
Yeah, happy finish for Arsenal.
Pete?
The Arsenal.
Matt?
Full house.
Thanks for making. How wonderful has he been at Highbury? 2/3 of his Premiership goals have come at Highbury. He loves it there, and the crowd in turn absolutely adore him. You just know that he will make his mark today. Rest of the team. Arsenal, of course, it's significant today. They have to do better than Spurs as well, remember, to clinch that Champions League place. So although it may be a bit of a festive feel to the day, it's serious business as far as the Gunners are concerned as well. Telling the boys just what he expects of them today. Give it to me, son, I think is the gist of it. My last game at Highbury, and I want to score. Freddie Lundberg and Robin van Persie dropped to the bench, and Alex Song has locked out the 60. Oh, well, it must have been pretty good. Gets a round of applause for Wigan. Paul Scharner, that's a piece of good news for Paul Jewell. Paul Scharner's missed a couple of games, but he starts today. So too does Reto Ziegler. Stefan Oncho drops to the substitutes bench. These are the scenes at Highbury as the teams emerge for the tunnel for the last time after 93 years, the final Premiership match at Highbury. And what a reception the teams are getting. What an honour this is for Wigan as well to be involved in this. Who would have believed that? It's going to be a party atmosphere. There's no doubt about that. But Arsene Wenger knows his side have to do the business on the field as well today. Fourth spot is tantalisingly close. Most of those memories have been good ones as well, haven't they? And Thierry Henry's memories have been absolutely outstanding. His goal-scoring record there is amazing, you know. 111 goals so far in the Premiership at Highbury. Absolutely startling. He scored 29 in his last 27 appearances there as well. And who would bet against Henry going out with a bang at the old ground today? It's live right now on Sky Sports 3.